Thailand is a country of hidden histories. The sleepy palm groves, meandering rivers and beautiful architecture are just part of its ancient story. At Cockpan, a remote wetland location, archaeologists unearthed one of the most amazing prehistoric graves ever found in Thailand. It contained the remains of a woman, a vast array of beads, pottery fragments, and a strange-looking ceramic object. Buried with the woman was an infant and a headless man. Who was this woman? How did she become so rich, and why was she so revered? What could explain such an opulent burial? Judy Volker, an archaeologist based in the United States, is a specialist in the ancient ceramics of Southeast Asia. She's been traveling to and from Thailand for over a decade and has a particular interest in the story of the woman of Cockpan, who was found buried with magnificent and very rare pottery.
Since I've been in Thailand, I've been intrigued by the woman nicknamed the Princess of Cockpan.
She's here in Thailand to examine the evidence and pull together expert opinion in an attempt to crack this ancient mystery.
Who is she? What was the society like she was living in? Who were these people? And what was going on? It's fascinating.
The floodplains that stretch northwards from the Gulf of Thailand are dotted with small, thickly forested areas that protrude above the flatlands. One such spot is Cockpan, KPD for short. This was the site of an ancient settlement of coastal hunters and gatherers who were based here for many generations. Analysis of their burial ground revealed a surprise. One of the most spectacular graves ever found in Thailand. A treasure trove of valuable beads, shells, and pottery. Judy Volker has traveled to this spot as part of her quest to understand this extraordinary burial. She has arranged to meet Thai archaeologist Dr. Rachani Thosarat, known as Kek, one of the leaders of the excavation here in 1985. Kek explains that it's because Cockpan lies beneath a Buddhist temple and is considered a sensitive site that this extraordinary discovery was made. It was the abbot here who made the crucial decision of exactly where to dig. It was the abbot's insistence that the trees were not to be disturbed and that the dig had to take place in a clearing that led to the lucky discovery of 154 burials, including that of the princess.
If they dug 10 meters to the left or the right, we're not sure what would have been recovered. Here, they found the princess as well as the other people associated with KPD.
Kek shows Judy the photos taken at the time of the discovery and describes her first impressions of the dramatic treasure-laden grave.
Once we get down, we couldn't believe our eyes. Woo! Look at that, you see?
The princess's skeleton was adorned with 2 decorative discs, a beautiful bracelet, and thousands of fabulous beads.
And get close up, you see.
Look at this. She has so many beads.
Yes.
Also found in the grave was this curious mushroom-shaped object. What of particular interest to Judy was the fact that her lower half was strewn with pottery fragments. The riches on the body made it immediately clear that this was an exceptional burial.
How did you feel when you found her?
Oh, everybody just feel very, very excited. You see, they couldn't believe their eyes.
She's beautiful.
Yes.
Who was this person? Where did she come from? And why was she so rich? Spurred on by these questions, the archaeologists dug on, hunting for clues. It wasn't long before they uncovered the grave of a 15-month-old infant, similarly adorned. Stranger still, they discovered another skeleton, but with no skull.
Buried just beside her grave, in a very, very narrow grave, there is a headless man.
A headless man?
What happened here? Was he beheaded and placed beside her as a form of sacrifice to honor her?
So
that's very unusual, very, very unusual.
So the chance choice of excavation site by the abbot not only brought forth the princess and a small child, but also the mystifying case of a headless man. The uniqueness of this discovery is both amazing and intriguing.
So this is quite a mystery what's happening here.
I agree.
Judy is eager to take a closer look at the princess's remains and calls on the expertise of osteoarchaeologist Nancy Tales. Judy hopes a detailed forensic examination of the so-called Princess of Cockpan will provide clues to reveal just who this woman was. What made her stand out from everyone else in the community? Did she hail from this area, or was she a revered outsider? The bones were damaged by the impact of the earth as the soft tissue decomposed.
Pity it's not complete, because then you get some sense of what she actually looked like. But she would look like the people who live in the village today here. Big wide face, big wide cheekbones, and quite a round head. Not long heads like us.
The first thing that Judy notices is the color of the bones.
Why are the bones so red?
Most of the bones at this site are this colour, this red, because they appear to have been buried, covered in red ochre.
Red ochre is a soft iron oxide that was crushed and mixed with other materials to make a red pigment. It was used in ceremonies in many ancient cultures. Perhaps during the funerary rite, the ochre was applied to the deceased's body to disguise their deathly pallor.
So it would be
red.
crushed ochre, probably,
Yes.
that laid over the burial
Yes.
itself. That's
Yes.
interesting. That's not very common, is it, at other sites?
I haven't seen it anywhere else. No. Not in this part of the world.
As this was a custom peculiar to this place, it implies that the princess wasn't an outsider, but a highly respected and highly wealthy member of the community who was buried according to local tradition. But how can Nancy be sure that this is a woman? For a start, the brow ridge on the skull is not as pronounced as it would be in a man's. Also, the sharpness of the eye sockets is typically female. And because the pelvis is so beautifully intact, Nancy is able to show Judy the innate femininity of this bone too.
So what we've got here
Look
is
at that.
some of the features that reflect the fact that women need a bigger pelvic cavity than men, so that the baby can get through when she's giving birth. So that the things that you can look at that reflect that are the width of this area here. This is very wide. In a male, this would be quite narrow.
Nancy then takes a look at the teeth. By looking at the wear and tear, she estimates the woman's age at death as between 30 and 40, a good age in a community where the average life expectancy was around 30. But then there is something altogether more interesting about the teeth.
The teeth at the front here, on the upper jaw, have actually been removed quite early in life, deliberately.
The princess underwent this tooth extraction as a young girl. Other burials on the site show the same thing. Clearly, this was a local custom. This would suggest that she was from Cockpan, or at least she'd been part of the community from an early age. But Judy still doesn't know why she was treated differently from the other villagers in death. Tooth samples are sent away for strontium testing, a process which analyzes the enamel's mineral content and will allow them to locate exactly where the princess lived, and whether or not she was from Cockpan.
Interesting, actually.
Nancy then takes a look at the woman's hand bones.
These bones are the metacarpals from the palm of the hand. And what we can see from these is that they've developed particularly strong ridges on the backs here, which tell us that she was doing something that involved quite vigorous movements of the hands.
Okay, and repetitive.
So, despite her wealth and high status, the princess had done plenty of physical labor during her lifetime.
If we look at her vertebral column,
The changes to the joints of her spine show that she was involved in vigorous physical activity that stressed her back.
you can see this little sharp bridge of bone here shows that the disc had started to degenerate, which is an indication that the spine was under considerable pressure. And in fact, oh look,
Out of the blue, a tiny treasure catches Nancy's eye.
Look what we've got here, isn't that neat?
It's a disc bead. Look at that.
There's 2 or 3 of the beads that she was buried with that have remained attached to the vertebra there.
This tiny bead is one of thousands found in the princess's grave. First-hand scrutiny of these will give Judy a clearer picture of just how wealthy or highly revered the princess was.
I've had a look at the bones now, but perhaps the most important evidence will be the grave goods, the items she was buried with, because they may provide the clues that tell me more about her life and her death.
Judy's next port of call is the Prachamburi National Museum, where the grave goods are displayed.
This one.
Keck shows Judy one of the shell discs found on the princess's chest, and the beautiful shell bangle found around her left wrist. A miniature version was found on the wrist of the infant buried near the princess. More amazing still is this incredible bead necklace that was placed around the princess's neck.
These are so tiny. How many were there?
Oh, 120,000 beads.
120,000? And you counted them yourself?
Yes.
How long did it take you?
Oh, take days. Many, many days.
If it took so long to count the beads, imagine how long it would have taken to make them and thread them. These glittering discs would probably have been made from shells found in a local estuary. A second necklace is made from what looks like small bones.
They look like bone. Are they bone?
Oh, absolutely not, because you can see.
Although they look like bone, they are in fact made of shell too.
What kind of shell?
Tridacna.
Tridacna? What
Yes.
is that?
It's giant clam.
Giant clam.
Yes.
So, unlike the smaller beads on the first necklace, which were more likely to have been harvested locally, these clamshell beads came from much further afield. From coral reefs many kilometers from Cockpan. The giant clam, which can reach a length of over a meter and weigh in at more than 200 kilograms, was quite a creature to harvest from the oceans. Beads fashioned from its iridescent shell were probably highly valued. So were these gifts to the princess from outsiders, or did she acquire the jewelry through trade? And if so, what means did she have for obtaining it? In a culture of barter and exchange, what did she have to offer that enabled her to become so uniquely wealthy? These stunning beads could be the vital clue for Judy in her quest to explain the princess and her extraordinary grave. In a remote corner of Thailand, a unique grave was uncovered. It was the grave of a woman buried with extraordinary treasures, shards of pottery, a small child, and a headless man. Archaeologist Judy Volker is on the case of this woman known as the Princess of Cockpan. Judy thinks she may have found a potential clue in the clamshell beads found in the grave. The river running by Cockpan is much as it was in the princess's day.
We're along the river estuary right now. I imagine that this is quite similar to what life looked like at the princess's village. The vegetation is dense, it's rugged, there's mangroves, there's palms, and it abuts right to the river's edge.
Today, as in prehistoric times, the waterway is a hubbub of activity, providing local people with water, food, and a highway for trade.
It's interesting to me that although we know they were eating fish, they were eating shell, that's not where the beads were coming from. In fact, they were coming from at least 100 kilometers away, from a more marine environment. And we can then establish that they've been traded into the site. What we don't know yet is what has been traded out.
So what could the source of the princess's wealth have been? Judy pays a visit to archaeologist Charles Hyam, co-director of the original dig, who can give her more detail about the grave. He'll be able to reveal more about the princess, the baby buried beside her, and the intriguing headless man.
Charles, I'm intrigued by the headless man. What's happening with him?
Well, we had 154 burials at this site, and this is the only one which was not intact. And I think it's worth stressing that the gap between the princess's burial and the headless man was only about, 2 or 3 inches. About 70, very, very close, and it was a dead straight line between the two. They were clearly contemporary.
Could he have been her husband? What we do know from forensics is that he died much younger than she. And it seems that years later, when she died, the mourners deliberately removed his skull as part of her burial ritual. For what reason? We will never know for sure. What we do know is that decapitation didn't take place, as none of the vertebrae were cut or damaged. Perhaps he was a relative, but even so, he wasn't buried with even a fraction of the princess's wealth. This was no royal dynasty. These riches belonged to the princess only. But how could she have accumulated such amazing wealth?
You can imagine that they were living next to a very, very muddy mangrove-fringed estuary. But this also gave access by the river and by the coast to trade routes. And so we seem to think that they were exporting large quantities of really coarse pottery containing something. And one possibility might be that they were sending salt quite widely away from the coast to the inland communities.
Trading goods may not have been the only source of income for the village. Crucially, it may have derived from the vessels that contained the goods, as well as what was in them.
And so we think that this woman was a member of a community which were dedicated to potting. They were pottery makers.
Some of the pots they made were ordinary vessels used for storage and trade. Others were masterpieces. What could be the key to the woman's grave is who was creating these masterpieces.
It's not at all unlikely that the men were organising the trade. They were going away in their boats and then coming back again later, perhaps armed with the shell beads and so on. But essentially, the pottery making revolved around the skills of the women.
And could it be that our princess was one of these craftswomen? Evidence from the grave backs this up. Pottery fragments were found strewn across her body, and her hand bones showed clear signs of repetitive, strenuous action. But was she a master potter from this village, or does she bring her skills from further afield? The results of the strontium analysis on her teeth are in and reveal her origins.
Our initial assumption was she may have entered the community from some distance, and perhaps as a marriage partner, and then set herself up, as it were, within this new community. But with nowadays, with analysis of strontium in the teeth, you can actually determine whether she was born and raised somewhere else, and she wasn't.
So the princess acquired her wealth from within the community of Cockpan. Judy takes her line of investigation to the local village. Here the potters use techniques that haven't changed much since the princess's day.
In Thailand today, the handmade pottery, which this is, not wheel-made, are made by women in villages. What we're seeing here is Yuan making utilitarian pottery. คิดว่าเสร็จแล้วค่ะสวยดีอันนี้ this is pineapple leaf, which easily could have been used in prehistory. So it's a traditional method that goes back perhaps as long as 2,000-3,000 years ago. ขอบคุณมากค่ะสวยดีค่ะ
But it's their tools that are key.
The tools to Yuan's left are what are shaped like clay mushrooms, and they're actually called anvils. They're ceramic pieces, they're fired, and we also have wooden paddles. These are the same instruments or the tools of the trade that we're finding from burials and from habitation sites 3,000 years ago.
It seems certain that the curious mushroom-shaped object in the princess's grave had the same purpose. And another practice that also survives to this day seems to confirm this.
Do you see how the neck has a design on it? She put that on slightly earlier. That design is unique to her. It's a maker's mark. So in the entire region here, if people choose to buy pots, they may know who made it and choose selectively to buy a specific woman's pot.
Could it be that the marks found on the pots in the princess's grave are her own maker's mark? What is certain is that these pots were incredibly special.
The princess, we believe, is making masterpieces. So she's using slipping and burnishing and far more elaborate shapes for the pots. In addition, it's a possibility, given the number of grave goods that she had, that she's a person of high status. And that may be because of her pottery making skills.
Potters were important to the wealth of the community, and the princess was a master craftswoman. Which could explain why she was so revered in death and bedecked and bejeweled with such riches.
There's been some suggestion that not just that the women make the pots, but they transfer that technology mother down to daughter, which is how many of the women here learned how to make pottery. We're assuming that that may have happened in prehistory.
So, it was the women of the community who were the potters. But they were also bringing into the world future generations of potters, their daughters. The baby found beside the princess was also buried with an anvil. Interestingly, it was miniature. And although forensics can't reveal much from such tiny bones, it seems likely that the baby buried with the miniature anvil was a girl.
Surely they're mother and daughter. Why do I say she's a little girl? Well, I think because all the evidence we have points to women making pots at this site. And I think this infant, standing no higher than one's knee, was almost certainly, before she died, sitting there next to Mum with clay, learning how to make pots.
The loss of this little girl, perhaps the next brilliant potter, would have been a great loss to the community.
You have a community, as at Cockpan at this period, in which ceramic manufacture was the key to the community's entire wealth and indeed being. And young girls were brought up to learn how to be expert potters. To lose one before she reached maturity would have been a very serious loss indeed.
This amazing grave has taught us something about Thai prehistory that we may never have otherwise known. That women in this ancient society were vital to the economy and wealth of their community, and that they could even accumulate substantial quantities of wealth for themselves.
It was the women in prehistory who contributed to their community by pot making, and through trade and exchange, they brought wealth to this society. Perhaps the nickname, the princess, is deserved. This woman was certainly buried with many grave goods and riches, and honored in her death.
Honored in death and in life, bedecked with an abundance of iridescent shell necklaces, she would have radiated sunlight and dominated her community with the splendor of what she was wearing.